The Jeep Grand Cherokee is a mid-size luxury SUV that has been in production for more than 30 years. Its fifth generation has arrived in European showrooms, but only in the 4xe version. That means a plug-in hybrid. Does it mean you can have an American off-road legend and drive silently off the beaten path? Let's find out.
Jeep made us wait some 10 years for the fifth generation of the Grand Cherokee. I suppose Chrysler's divorce with Daimler and then merger with Fiat and subsequent transformation into Stellantis meant that they had to wait to integrate the right tech from within the group, including powertrains. While in some markets Jeep would get by with the petrol Pentastar V6 and HEMI V8s that power half of America, in Europe these powertrains are forbidden fruit and cost too much to run anyway. The days of the diesel seem to be numbered as well, so the only way to get this big a car to move without polluting too much is to plug it in.
So, under this long bonnet, or maybe I should say a hood, lives a comically small 2-liter engine known from the Alfa Romeo Giulia or Stelvio among others. On top of that, there are 2 electric motors and a traction battery with a 17.3 kilowatt-hour capacity, probably gross, as the most I've been able to add to it is about 15.5 kilowatt-hours. The internal combustion engine puts out 272 horsepower and the electric motors have 145 and 61 horsepower. The combined output is 381 horsepower and 637 Nm of torque, so the hybrid Jeep performance should be comparable to the V8 when it goes on sale again.
The Grand Cherokee has always had a relatively modest design. Whenever I see any generation of this on the street, I don't think they got old. I expect it will be the same with the fifth generation. Dominating the front is the wide radiator grille with Jeep trademark 7 slots, large headlights with thin daytime running lights. Lower down is the bumper and another large air intake. I'm not a fan of these aerodynamic flaps in front of the wheels. I have a feeling sooner or later they will fall off during off-roading, but they probably have an aerodynamic effect and help to reduce fuel consumption, at least in official tests. On the side, no surprises, it's a large, massive SUV. The wheel arches are flattened, which works with the general shape of the car. On the left side fender is the charging port under a flap with a blue letter E. At the rear we get overlapping tail lamps, 4xe and Summit badges, the latter is the trim level. Between the lamps is a black stripe and on it, in the middle, is the Jeep logo. In the bumper, there are those chrome exhaust tips behind which the actual exhaust resides. These collect sand and mud, not the best idea for an off-road car. The undercarriage is almost completely flat, which makes off-roading easier because the car will just slide over obstacles, within reason of course. The new Grand Cherokee WL is almost 10 cm longer than the outgoing WK2 generation and measures more than 491 cm in length. The wheelbase is about 5 cm longer, over 296 cm, and the car is a few centimeters taller, up to 187 cm depending on the equipment version. A long wheelbase model called L is also available in the US with a wheelbase extended to 309 cm and a body length of 520 cm.
The boot can be opened with a remote control or with gesture. At 533 liters, it is a couple of dozen liters bigger than in the previous generation. There is also a nearly 40-liter underfloor storage compartment which houses the space saver spare, tools and the charging cable as well. There are shopping bag hooks, a 12-volt outlet, anchor points to secure some bigger luggage. Now the cargo cover doesn't fit under the floor. The button to close the boot is on the left D-pillar instead of the tailgate. someone thought about the vertically challenged drivers who may not be able to reach this high.
The doors don't cover the sills, so even in the lowest suspension setting, more about that in a moment, when getting in and out, I touch the sills with my shins. And the sills collect all the mud you drive your Jeep through. I'm 175 centimeters tall, and inside I have plenty of legroom and headroom. The driver's seat is set to my driving position. In the back there are door pockets, dual zone climate control, 4 USB ports, a 230 volt outlet, cup holders in the armrest, and pockets on the front seat backs with those hooks for, I don't know, shopping bags or maybe to hang some accessories. Isofix anchor points are on the side seats. There is no ski hatch, and the backrest splits 40-60. The backrest angle is adjustable.
At first glance, the cockpit looks modern and luxurious. There's quilted leather on the doors and on the seats. The dashboard elements are finished in leather and wood. There are 3 displays across the cockpit, but still a lot of physical buttons and knobs, so controlling all this can't be too complicated.
First, the good news. Indeed, the car is fairly simple and logical to operate. The driver's display has several modes of data presentation. I chose a panorama of 5 tiles with the information of my choice because the contents of the tiles are configurable. Everything is controlled with buttons on the left side of the steering wheel. On the right side of the steering wheel are buttons for adaptive cruise control. On the central display, you can select your favorite apps to be on top. There are also shortcuts to various vehicle functions and settings. The settings are extensive and can be saved to a driver profile, which I recommend doing. Below are physical buttons and knobs for basic climate control settings. More advanced settings are on the display. This is where I encountered further problems.
First, the driver's seat heating doesn't work. Second, the air conditioning is terribly loud and can't make up its mind. Either it's too hot or too cold. It seems to be unable to maintain set temperature. In the climate control settings, I did not find an option to change the power at which the automatic setting mode operates. So the only way around it is to just decrease the fan speed manually to 1, but even then, it's too loud. I should add that during my week with the Grand Cherokee, the outside temperature is around, well, above freezing, low but above freezing, so the air conditioning really doesn't have to work overtime. This is the top Summit Reserve trim, and even here there is no electric windshield heater. At least the steering wheel heater is here and works, surprisingly.
Below the AC panel we have 4 USB ports, 2 USB-A and 2 USB-C, a 12-volt outlet, an HDMI port, a wireless charger, toggle switches for drive modes and air suspension settings, as well as a rotary gear selector. The cup holders are the best in the world, with the kind of rubber insert that keep virtually any size of bottle or cup stable. Then there is a double storage compartment under the armrest, a smaller one for, say, documents, and a proper deeper one. The door pockets are average, and so is the glove box. Meanwhile, above the glove box is the third display. What on earth for?
On the third display, the passenger can watch videos from the attached player to the HDMI port. Don't worry, the driver can't see the contents of the screen because you have to sit directly in front of it, so you probably can't even see it in these 2 cameras, only in the cutaways.
But watching videos through HDMI is a bit last decade. The passenger can also control music sources, view and set sat-nav, and display parking camera. Sat-nav and camera could be useful when the passenger acts as the co-pilot during some overlanding adventure. Still, a bit of a gimmick, I think. By the way, the front and rear cameras get sprayed with water when you launch the front and rear window spray. The passenger can't do it. This could have been a button on the display.
This test example also features some trim imperfections. In front of the passenger, the wood sticks out from under this chrome element, and it really shouldn't be like this, not at this price point. The Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe can run in hybrid, electric or e-save mode. In hybrid mode, the computer decides when it's best to use the internal combustion engine, the electric motor or both for best efficiency and performance. The electric mode is pretty much self-explanatory, and in e-save mode, the internal combustion engine recharges the traction battery to a set level and maintains that level of charge.
According to European homologation data, the Grand Cherokee 4xe has an electric range of up to 51 km in the city and up to 48 km combined. For the US, Jeep quotes a range of just 25 miles, which is about 40 km. In the European press release, Jeep quotes a total range of up to 700 km, which, with an electric range of up to 51 km and a 72-liter fuel tank, works out to an average consumption, once the energy in the traction battery is depleted, of about 11 liters per 100 kilometers. Under the right conditions, the front axle is automatically disconnected, increasing efficiency. In the combined cycle, I managed to get about 12 liters per 100 kilometers. Probably on summer tires, in warmer weather, I would be able to get down to about 11 liters. Meanwhile, the electronic range does not even come close to the American estimates. In the city, I managed to drive about 25 kilometers in electric mode. Apparently, there is some recuperation, but it's not noticeable. Pressing the accelerator harder fires up the internal combustion engine. The maximum speed in electric mode is 135 kilometers per hour, but this is pointless because then the range drops even quicker.
So it seems like we have a plug-in hybrid SUV with some electrical gremlins, misaligned, trimmed, and over-optimistic range estimates. How about performance figures? Well, Jeep claims the 4xe will do 0 to 100 km per hour in 6.3 seconds. I was able to achieve 6.6 in sport mode. Maybe on summer tires on a warmer, dry day it would be possible to get down to 6.3 seconds. But in the hybrid Grand Cherokee, it's not the 0 to 100 time that's most interesting, it's how the car reacts to the gas pedal when it's already on the move. And it goes like the clappers. Let me add, we're talking about a 2.5-ton SUV which can tow in excess of 2.3 tons, probably limited because emissions in Europe. And how does the Grand Cherokee ride? Well, I can't comment on the soundproofing because of the loud AC. The only thing that cuts through the noise is the clutter of the adaptive suspension on potholes. This car has done some 18,000 kilometers and it's been in media tests, so I know all of my fellow journalists took it off-road, as they should because it's a Jeep.
However, as a result, the air suspension makes noises which wouldn't be surprising in a 10-year-old car, but shouldn't be coming out of a car that's 6 months old tops. The suspension also makes disconcerting sounds when lowering for easy entry position. It drops after you put the car in park. It takes so long that while recording GoPro cutaways, I was able to get out of the car, reposition the cameras, and the suspension was still doing its thing. I turned the easy access feature off. Now I can control the suspension myself, and the only automation is in the aerodynamic mode during fast driving or the increased ground clearance associated with off-road modes. More on off-road driving in a moment.
On rough roads, this truck is shaky. While this isn't a chassis on frame design, unibody isn't also entirely monocoque, so probably not as comfortable. If it weren't for shaking on bumps, which is perhaps caused by some defect to the adaptive suspension, otherwise the Jeep rides very pleasantly on tarmac. Visibility is good for an SUV, steering is precise for an SUV, dynamics and engine sound are above average, I would say, and the brakes are efficient. Are they? Oh yes. Adaptive cruise control and active lane assist work well, the 360 camera helps maneuvering, but the anti-collision system during reversing reacts violently every day when I'm reversing in my driveway. I like the night vision system though, it has pedestrian detections. In bad weather, especially on dark roads, I noticed pedestrians in advance and I can evade them or stop sooner, so it's great for safety.
And now for the off-road test. I won't insult Jeep with my diagonal approach test. The Grand Cherokee at least deserves this sand hill, which it drives up with no problem in the sand mode. You can feel this is a car made for off-roading, which on occasion has to drive on tarmac. Ground clearance is 20 cm in normal mode, 27.5 cm in off-road mode. The maximum wading depth is 61 cm. Thanks to the increased ground clearance, the Jeep had no problems with deep ruts left here by people in SUVs with larger off-road tires. The press car just has regular winter tires. Depending on the trim, the Jeep Grand Cherokee has Quadra Track 2 or Quadra Drive 2 all-wheel drive. The latter has electronic limited slip differential. Quadra Track is the base all-wheel drive on limited and overland versions. Quadra Drive is on the most off-road worthy Trailhawk and on the top-of-the-line Summit Reserve. On this dune, the internal combustion engine was running and even put some excess energy back into the traction battery. However, for rock crawling, I could have used just electric motors. Prices of the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe start at €79,500 for the limited trim. This is the top-of-the-line Summit Reserve with pretty much everything as standard. However, it also means a hefty price tag of €99,900.
The Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe has a lot of potential, but for $100,000, the quality just isn't there. And what do you think about the Jeep Grand Cherokee? Would you rather push your Land Rover? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.